Cool. Welcome back to Justin the podcast that celebrates all stories of love and life, from relationships, passions, family, friends, interests, experiences, and everything in between. I am so excited for today's episode. It is currently 5 o'clock in the morning, and I know that is actually like my normal time of being up, and this is like where I feel the most invigorated, and I can't wait for this conversation because this person is someone whose story reminds us that you are able to create your own success. And through resilience and through learning and through reflection, like you can make it and you can do whatever you dream of. And this is why I'm so excited to have this conversation. Allie is a marketing executive, agency founder, and a leader who built her success from lived experience rather than privilege. A journey that's moved through adoption, foster care, constant change, becoming a teen mother, experiences that really taught her how to read people, look at the world, and create clarity in chaos long before she ever stepped into like boardrooms or leadership. And what makes this work so compelling is that it's personal, it's lived experience. And she built her own company, Workhorse Marketing, not out of ambition, but out of frustration in an industry that often values spin over substance and ego over honesty. Her leadership style is direct, human, and grounded, and it is shaped with empathy and a belief that success should feel aligned. Now, today, Allie leads a fully remote all-women leadership team, speaks openly about neurodiversity, creativity, and continues to redefine what success and impact look like. And before we talk about marketing, before we talk about leadership, before we talk about strategy or the journey, I want to start where I always do, which is a question that connects the audience to you. And so if someone asks you, who are you at your core, beyond the titles, the achievements, the work experience, what you've built, the places you've been, where you've come from, how would you describe who you are at your core?
Oh, what a great question. I love that. I start with flawed, and that's not being self-deprecating. I love the flaws that have built who I am, the mistakes that I've made, the roads that maybe I shouldn't have gone down. But at the end of it, it's flawed, curious, and always learning, exploring, and moving forward. I don't sit still and let whatever's happening happen. I like to be in control. That is a blessing and a curse. It's just been such an incredible journey. And so I wear my flaws with pride. They haven't always served me, but you learn so much from it. I am just a diehard traveler as well. And I think that those flaws allow me to explore in a way that I think some people with a lot of set boundaries or set expectations of what their lives are going to look like are maybe a little fearful of that. And I think, my background of just complete chaos, I'm ready for anything at any time. So I'm going to go flawed at the core, but in a beautiful way.
Beautiful. That's see I ask this question to every guest, and I always love having like the first. It's always the first. Like no one ever really answers that the same way. And I love how you've gone with flawed and but in the beautiful sense. And I guess I would love to follow up on that. What would you say is like or an example of like a flaw that you've really come to love about yourself?
Oh gosh. Growing up, I had to do a lot of advocating, and I didn't even know what that meant as a child, but I had to defend and protect myself in a way that most kids don't have to. And so I learned early on how to advocate for myself and argue, and I will fight you tooth nail, to the bone if I think I'm right. I will die on a hill. That actually, kind of had to be developed, but ended up being something that I'm probably most proud of is
Mhm.
being able to advocate and speak my mind and not step down from, people or things that are in my way or causing problems or being a burden or a barrier. Now, in the same breath, it took me a long time to develop the finesse or the understanding. And there are still times, I am 53 years old and there are still times where I'm like, oh, just you have to shut up now. Like this is you went too far. Like stop. But I have a sense of passion with the people that I love and the people that I care about, but also the the visions that I have for the way things should be, that sometimes it's really hard to reel that in. But oh my God, that got me in so much trouble as a kid. And especially in, foster care and placements where they're just like, you're in a holding bin, not a loving, caring environment. And the last thing they want to hear is some, 8-year-old, 10-year-old giving them thoughtful debate on why they're right and why you as an adult are wrong. So it took a lot of years to develop. And there were some key people that helped me do that. But also paid part of my way through college doing debate. So blessing and a curse, right? But yeah, that is definitely one of the things I think that I am, probably most proud of in my younger self was my ability to stand up and make an argument.
Yeah, nice. I love how you've attached that to all these different stages of your life to now to being a kid to college. So it's something that's
Yeah.
always within you. And I'd love to explore this part of your story and I guess like the way that it's shaped you. So you speak openly about growing up in constant transition, right? Adoption, foster care, multiple schools, a lot of instability.
Yeah.
Um, how did living in that sort of, I guess, chaotic motion, shape the way you see people, the world, yourself, even?
Yeah, I mean, it's played a big role in who I am, good and bad. Um, I didn't have a there was no stability realistically. I was adopted at birth to a couple who I mean, I call them mom and dad. That my dad passed years ago. My mom is still alive. Um, but they were in a dysfunctional marriage, and my dad, who's passed, is was older. He was 50 years old when I was born. He did not want kids. He was, doing what he thought he was supposed to do as a man in the, 70s. Have kids. That's what your expectations are. And he was, I mean, just to be direct, abusive. My mom and him divorced in 78. So I was probably, 6, 7, 8, whatever that math is in that era. And it was an era where single moms weren't really, a thing. And so she was trying to do the best she could, but it was still just a horrible situation. So the foster care system became involved. I actually ended up in a really positive foster care placement, one of the many times. And, my foster mother from that stay was one of the key people in my life, but she wasn't a loving role model. She was a strict, these are the rules, you will follow them. But I needed that. And all of that really shaped how I parented. And as a teen mom, it wasn't always positive. I had to really learn things that I'm still learning on how to play. Didn't know how to do that. Play was not a part of my childhood necessarily. Imagination, books, escapism, kind of just being somewhere that isn't where I was became a pivotal part of that. But, being a mom at a young age, I had no idea what I was doing, and it was a lot. But I've had along the way, I've had a lot of really great people influence, even in that chaos, that definitely, put me in a position that I had the ability. I don't necessarily credit any one person with why I am where I am today. It was a lot of pieces of the puzzle. And I know I was a bad decision away from a trailer park and, some really bad situations, but it was that fight, that don't give up, that, continuation of just survival instinct that propelled me forward. But when you're in that survival mode, a lot of time you aren't looking at emotional needs of others or your own emotional needs and concerns. You're just looking for the next survival mode. So, even now when I feel completely safe, I have a beautiful life. there are imperfections that I wish I could, go back and fix and do things differently. But I still am learning, as now a grandmother. I'm like, oof, okay, I gotta do this right. I gotta really focus on this. And it's still hard. It's still, the chaos that you're grown up in. One of the great things though is, man, when there is a crisis, I get a level of focus that I can only explain as complete and total clarity. And it's like a calm. Whatever the worst case scenario, the harder it is, the calmer I get. And I immediately know how to react in crisis, which is a weird superpower to have. Like,
So learn
very,
superpower, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But, and that's why I've loved marketing, I think, so much. For years, we were in kind of an event-based marketing space. I worked with Harley Davidson as in the dealer network for years. The bigger the problem, artist doesn't show up at a concert, things are going wrong. It just narrows, like everything gets quiet. I see the solution. I see the steps to the solution. And I just immediately can react when everyone else is running around freaking out. So should have probably looked at crisis management as a role in my career, but marketing is kind of the same thing. So
Yeah. Thank you again for sharing that. And before we get into, I guess how you got into marketing as well, I'd love to talk about maybe even like that clarity that you said that you've developed in these situations. Is that something that like you had in those early stages, I guess, of being a mom and trying to navigate that? Like, what did that, I guess, look like for you being so young, but also finding ways to, um, actually understand what to do in these situations, or like you talk about survival, it's just like how did, I guess, that part of who you are and that skill, that power that you developed really help you navigate that stage of your life?
yeah, I mean, even as a kid, I was able to predictively see what the next thing that was going to happen was. And I'm starting to realize that, 50 plus, some of my neurodivergence is part of what was allowing me to do that. And I think just generally ADHD people, like, we know what you're going to say before you finish your sentence. It's why we notoriously interrupt. And that's that's one of the things that I've always struggled with, is like slow talkers drive me mad, right? Drives me mad. So, but as I was going up through this system and learning, like, I made a lot of mistakes in it too, because my only goal, my narrow focus, is the immediate crisis, and how to remove the barrier to whatever crisis it was, and it led me down some bad paths as far as life decisions, husbands that I shouldn't have married, moves that I shouldn't have made, or things like that. But it was the better of the two options in that moment. And I always use the example of, you didn't get picky if you were on the Titanic about which lifeboat you got on. You got on a lifeboat, and because it's still the better option than staying on the Titanic. And so, my kids really, they struggled because that was my focus instead of the nurturing, mothery part of it. And my love language is very much financial support, care, and making sure you're safe and cared for you have clothes, you have shoes, you are not going to be living in a runaway shelter or a foster home. Like, and so now looking back, there's a ton that I wish I could have broadened that view a little bit and said, hey, this decision is going to save us from financial destruction, but it's going to ruin us emotionally. Or this is the best thing right now to slow the process of what's happening, but long term, people are going to be hurt by this decision. And so that is something now that I look back on, and it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow when you felt like you were doing the right thing and you did survive and you did get them, to a safe space, but then it wasn't the right answer. And so kind of going through and looking back now, but when you're talking about crisis management, you're not thinking about, hey, there's a tornado coming. what are we going to do when the tornado is over? You're thinking about, how do I save lives in this moment? Right? How do I get the most people to safety? How do I protect the biggest number of people? And so that's rough. That is rough when you have that narrow focus, but it's for the best at the time. So,
Yeah, thank you for sharing that
sure.
as well, and it gives a lot of insight to who you were and the person you're trying to be. And I guess I would love to talk about marketing and how that path. How do you get to that path? How will you get to getting a career or dipping your feet into that? And I know that it said on your profile like it started off with jingles and TV jingles and
Yes.
all of those things. So yeah, take us through the journey of like how you get to working in marketing space.
Yeah, I mean, now, just going to date myself here, but, we did not, there was nothing else going on in the world back in the 70s, right? 70s, 80s, growing up, it was music, TV, and, being outside. We were kicked out in the morning. No matter where I was, there was like a get outside and play kind of vibe, and then come back in when you either are frozen to death or, need food or sustenance. And so, you had to figure out ways to entertain yourself, or be really creative to keep yourself entertained, otherwise you'd just go crazy. And so I was a big TV kid growing up, but I would wait for the commercials. I was like, well, the Brady Bunch is fun, but like, whose commercial is coming on? And the back in the late 70s was the peak time for jingles, right? There were some incredibly good jingles out there. And I just thought that was so cool that you could like write a song about a product, and then people would get excited, and then they'd remember it, and they would sing it. And so it really just felt so creative and so inspiring. And I was a very avid reader as a kid, books on books on books on books, couldn't get enough. And so between that and kind of the, putting all the pieces together, actually, right after I got pregnant, because I had actually decided I was going to go into photography. I was a big, back in the day with the dark rooms and everything, like photographer. Well, when I got pregnant, that clearly was out. And so I was like, what could I do that I could make good money and, do something but I still didn't want to just like go work in a factory, right? I still had dreams, and I still wanted to inspire my daughter to, do more than, just whatever. So yeah, so I went right out of, I got my GED early when I got pregnant, which is just a diploma. So I could go to college sooner, and went into marketing and management, and just immediate was like, oh, this is it. This is it. Like, the convincing people. And I don't say this in a negative way, and I've really struggled with this, but you're manipulating people with marketing, right? So there's power in that. And manipulation always sounds like a bad thing, like, oh, you're manipulative. Everything that you buy, you've been manipulated into buying if you're responding to an ad, right? Or even seeing someone use the product, that's manipulation. And so the power of that at first when I was young was just really inspiring. And now I really look at it as a way to piece all of the best things that I know together and become a storyteller and become an advocate for clients who have been massively taken advantage of by traditional agency buy. And, so now I can't even tell you how grateful I am to be in the space that I'm at, where my creative juices get to work over time, but for good people doing really cool things. And we love the nonprofit space. We work with a lot of the YMCAs. We work in any nonprofit. I love that. Like, if you're out there doing good stuff for the community, I will support you with marketing. But also even private industry. If you're just a cool person and you're doing what you do with the right reasons, I love it. I love it. So um, when I'm free to go do whatever I want to do, even if I'm traveling, even if I'm on a beach somewhere, or we were in Italy for 30 days in October, and I'm still looking at every ad. I'm still saying, oh my God, that font's terrible. This jingle's awful. I actually took a photo of one on a ski lift in up in the Dolomites because I couldn't read it, but I definitely wanted to figure out what it was for later. And we just had the most fun with this ad as a team, and it never leaves my side. Everything is through a marketing lens in a way, and I am the luckiest girl to have the skills, the ability, and the outlet to do what I love every single day. And it's hard because I don't even really like disconnecting from it. So vacations, I'm in Italy, but I'm working the whole time, which is great. I mean, the flexibility of a remote life is my dream. The only other thing I would watch on TVs besides commercials was Rick Steves, who traveled, the Europe through the back door. He's the PBS icon in the US. And I would see these places, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, literally nowhere, Iowa. And I'm seeing like beautiful mountains and waterfalls. And it gave me a sense of hope, growing up, like the world is bigger than this. And that's amazing.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. My wife works in marketing. She does the exact same thing. We go anywhere and 20 minutes of dialogue will be about like this one billboard or one ad. And especially when we're watching movies, movie ads are so interesting. What they put in cinemas, I find so fascinating. Like someone paid for this to happen. This is
Yes.
an ad that was, and we always just look at that before the movie, just like pre-movie discussions. Like, what do you think this is about? What is the intention of it? So I definitely get that part too, especially like and the travel. It's just like seeing foreign marketing is so wild, right?
Wild,
Yeah, we went to
wild.
Japan last year,
Oh,
and we were just ads and billboards were very much like a lot of the conversation that we were going through.
I believe it. Yeah, I think people who are in marketing for the right reason, like it's like solving a mystery sometimes when you see other ads, like what was happening in your
Yeah,
brain when this happened? And we're seeing that more and more. I mean, the I don't know how familiar you are, but there's a brand in the US called Nutter Butter, and it's just a peanut butter cookie. That's it. And they went rogue a year ago and just started doing all these wacky, YouTube, TikTok videos, and people who had never heard of the brand were suddenly like, millions and millions of people. And this is a cookie from back in the day. So
yeah,
like wild how kind of the change has happened so quickly in my lifetime from, we didn't have cell phones when I started to now, instant access to everything you ever wanted to know about your client. Like we have cell phone data that we're able to pull on and tell you what social hashtags are the group that we want to talk to are following right this second. That if you went back to 1991 and told fresh out of college or in college Allie that was going to be a thing, I wouldn't have believed you. um, we had a professor that used to say marketing is knowing that you're going to waste 50% of your ad budget but not knowing which 50%,
mm,
and basically saying like good luck. You're going to put it out there and you hope that people respond to it. How do you know? How do you know?
mm,
I mean, the yellow pages were like the most trackable because you could have a specific number that you made them call. And, again, where else were people going to get the number back in the day? It was the yellow pages. So
yeah,
now there's such a, insane growth of opportunity to be specific and target. But here's the thing I miss about that. The common lived experience is gone. So, like the jingles, right? You might know some of the big, jingles that go around for, big, huge brands. In the States, we have, and in the Midwest specifically, there's a home repair store called Menards. And I can hear the jingle in my head. Anytime you go by, you sing the song in your head. But that doesn't happen anymore because you are not going to get the same ad that I get.
yeah,
So none of that lived experience. It's like when the Christmas shows used to be on a Wednesday night, back in the day when you were a kid, and everyone in your class watched the Snoopy Christmas special. on Wednesday night. And we all got to know that we all watched it the next day and we got to talk about it. Those lived experiences are, they're ultimately gone, besides a few, maybe the Super Bowl, maybe some sort of sporting event that everybody's tuning into because it's live. But that makes me a little sad.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I think about marketing is that we're now so hyper specific. But I don't get diaper ads anymore and I'm okay with that. I don't need those.
And well, I guess it's like the mass universal lived experience. And I think now everything, yeah, is, we're algorithm based advertising as
Yes.
well, right? Yeah. And
Yeah,
you
and
know,
and I think it has an impact just universally, even from the
mm,
political climate. We're not having the same lived experience. Our news feeds are very different. We're getting fed what specifics that we're going to be inclined to listen to and believe. And so I do think there are repercussions in that, but it is nice from a marketing perspective to be able to, even for a client, a cost perspective, you don't need to do national big campaigns to sell something that only a third of the population is really interested in.
mm.
So
Yeah, well, and
good and the bad.
you've got to see like the evolution of like marketing, like and I guess like you've just explained like one aspect of it, which is like the universal lived experience of all of that. And then I guess I would love to ask you, what have been like the big or I guess the big insights and changes and developments that you've really seen in marketing over all of these years?
Yeah, it's been wild, truthfully. I mean, from yellow page ads where it was like you had to have photo ready copy because no one had a computer to you do anything with, to now where, no joke, I mean, everything that you do on your cell phone, we have the ability to identify you as a audience and target you and retarget you. And if you search A, B, C, and D, here comes your ad. Um, I think the most interesting things that I saw, the biggest transitions that I saw, was marketing's delayed reaction to things like social media. I found that fascinating. I was an early adapter. I saw the opportunity right away. And really, even the lag between Facebook or even, MySpace and advertising was shocking to me. When MySpace really first started, it was just people talking to people and there were no ads and there was, and I'm like, this is such a perfect opportunity. And so the minute Facebook really took off, I was early into that space with as an advertiser for clients. So social media definitely was probably one of the biggest transitions, slow, but happened. Um, and then, I mean, the AI technology and the data are just blowing my mind, just blowing my mind. I think AI right now, if you're using it for creative, is a cesspool. It's gross. We know you're doing it. Quit doing it. We can tell. Like, I have seen very few AI commercials hit the way they should. To me, it should only be used in satire at this point. And even then, I'm kind of icked by it. I think it's going to get there. Um, but no, I think it's a great tool for copywriting as a base. You got to go in and edit it. It still doesn't sound the way that it should or authentic. But yeah, and even forget the technology side of marketing, especially, Gen Z and things that are coming forward, they will not be sold. They will be inspired. And that is so cool. Um, because the selling has been such a key part of it. And I am such a storyteller on the front end that having to say things like join now, register now, click here just gross me out. And so now getting to tell people stories or inspire them, I think that's so cool. So even from a lens of what is going to make the impact, night and day. Night and day. Do I love a vintage commercial? Absolutely. But I love that now it's like you better have some meaning behind what you do.
Is that something that you had, like, is that an idea or a concept, especially the fact I love what you said about like you need to inspire people now, right? Is that something that you knew before? Like, was that like a belief that you had, like especially early on in marketing? It's like it's about inspiring, not just selling. It's about telling the story, not just trying to like push something down people's throats. And like, I guess how do you still like how have you transitioned this love of marketing and these insights that you've had for marketing now into this future? And like what were your reflections back, I guess, early on in like the early 2000s about how did you try to tell stories and inspire, and what was the response back when you before you started Workhorse Marketing?
It was hit or miss. I think a lot of people saw it as a unique, and even to this day, sometimes we get pushback
Mm.
when it's like, I just want to sell X. I just need people to come to this event. I just need this to happen. Great. Other than just begging them and sounding sad and pathetic, how would you like me to do that? And so having to just realign people to that's not how this works anymore. Not that long ago, we had a very large client who at the last minute was panicking about a number of registrations they had for a program. Okay. And they literally wanted to push out a call now ad, dial a physical number. And I was like, no one under 40 or under 40 is going to pick up a phone. They would rather pull their own eyeballs out than physically talk to someone to complete a purchase. And so it's that idea that there's still people who think that that's a viable way to convince people to do something. Not only that, there was no story behind what we were trying to get them to convert on. And so, back in I've always tried to approach it this way. When I was working in the Harley Davidson space, um, it was very much just talk to the same people who already ride. That was the model, and we were putting logos in MMA rings and things like that, where it was just toxic masculinity, just screaming toxic masculinity. And I made it a goal to increase the number of female riders for a dealership. So one location up in Minnesota, I said, how many bikes do we sell to females in a year? And it was like I don't know, 4% or something. And just giving them an opportunity to learn about the product in a safe way. So we did women only riders training. We did women's only events where they could learn how to change oil or do something simple to their motorcycle. We went into double digit percentages pretty quickly. Not because we were like, hey, ladies, buy a motorcycle, come here, do this, come do no, just removing the barrier of entry for people and making it feel like it's a safe space to be, night and day. Click, right? And I miss the Harley space sometimes, and I wish I could just shake some people sometimes and go, you're not getting it. Because when you ride a Harley, you made a lifestyle decision, not a purchase. Why aren't we telling that story more? Women specifically are excluded from that unless they're on the back most of the time. And yet women who ride are some of the most powerful, amazing women that I know. Talk to them. Talk to them. That's it. It's that simple. So yeah, I've been on the wagon a long time, kind of beating the drum, like inspiration over sales all day. Not to diss on my sales people out there, but yeah, I don't want to be sold.
Yeah, that's great. I love that that you framed it that way too. I feel like I'm an English teacher as well, and we have to like get kids to look at marketing and ads and all that stuff. And I think I'm gonna clip this. I'm gonna show it to them because I think it's so true. Like I've loved how you framed all of that. And even just like you talk about like Harley Davidson, about like, oh, it's a lifestyle change. I'm just listening to you. I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Like, yeah. So,
It's a lot harder to convince somebody to spend $50,000 on a piece of metal.
mm, yeah. I I'd love to really explore because it sounds like from the start of this conversation, you are loving life. You have loved this life that you've built. You have fully remote. You have a wonderful team, and you get to work with clients that you choose. You have the freedom to do that. And then I'd really love for you to talk about Workhorse Marketing and, like, I guess, how it began. What was the intention? What are your philosophies and ideologies, and like, what has this experience really brought to you in your life?
No, great question. So Workhorse Marketing actually started, I was still doing some part-time work with the Harley Davidson group, and I had just needed some new inspiration. And so I took a role with an entertainment group during the Super Bowl in Minneapolis. So they were a fixed location, multi-story, trying to put on a ridiculous amount of events during Super Bowl. Um, Very traditional nightclub energy, very, all the stars were out. Shaq was there DJing. We had, literally every person you can imagine in the building. And it was the agencies that we dealt with during that period where at no point did they care what the goal was or what the audience needed to be. It was, how much can you spend? How much can you give me to spend? Um, no accountability to the success when nothing was happening, when tickets weren't selling. It was like, get a better, do better. It was the team's fault, not the agency's fault. And it just reminded me of how many agencies over the year that I have just struggled to work with. That antiquated view of accountability, and even the ridiculous amount they wanted to spend in traditional media when we were in the crux of streaming and everyone was cutting cords, in 2017. And like, it didn't matter. Even though I was the marketing director for the entire team, agency, trumped that. And we did complete failure, absolute multi-million dollar failures. So I just got done and I wanted out, and it was going to, they had suffered some pretty big financial losses. Clearly, I knew I needed to come up with a better plan. And I just sat down and I said, what if? What if you actually ran an agency with the goal of the client success as the priority? And I was like, well, surely people have done this. Surely this is not new concept. But what you realize is that even the ones that say they're client forward aren't putting their money where their mouth is. They're still selling big radio buys. They're still selling traditional TV on news cycles to trying to hit 35-year-olds. My daughter's 35. She hasn't watched a news cycle since she was at home with me because I am an old woman and I still watch the 6 o'clock and the 10 o'clock news, right? Why are we doing this? And it was clear because what people don't typically realize is the relationships they have with big media get them the tickets to the big concerts, get them the spiffs, get them the extra little things on the side, get them the trips, the media trips. I don't care about any of that. I don't care at all. Listen, every once in a while, it's fun to get Packers tickets or something, but it was not what I was going to build my brand on. And so we don't do annual contracts with anybody. We don't buy in bulk. We buy specific to each client's very specific, unique needs. Because if I have to buy a bulk buy because one client wants this, I'm going to be ramming that other bulk behind to someone who doesn't need it. No. So every decision I make from a strategic standpoint for a client, I have to be willing to write that check with my own money or it doesn't happen. So when I say something crazy, and actually it's funny you reference this, I've been off cinema ads since the pandemic until this year. I think they're back. I think people are ready for this. One, Hollywood has finally stepped up and produced something that is worth maybe looking at. They didn't pull from the vault this year. Like, I feel like we've been just getting vaulted, shelved projects because production takes a while. 2020 wasn't really that long ago from a Hollywood standpoint. So we're back in cinema. Here's the problem. Everybody's gotten spoiled and they expect immediate KPI in return. So yes, of course, you're putting a QR code on things, but you have to go back and retrain people. Some marketing, it's okay if we don't get access to the numbers immediately. You can still put a billboard up and have impact, even though you can't immediately see someone click or convert or something, right? But I won't do any of that unless I would write the check for it. And that's how I think it should be. I think it should be that accountability that an agency should have that, if it didn't work, would you still write the check? And yeah, everything, even if it isn't a traditional success, at the end of the day, I know I did the right thing.
It's a really good philosophy to have as well, because it gives you your own sense of personal accountability with whatever happens, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the team is that way. We've built such an incredible, I mean, I can't talk about Workhorse without talking about my incredible team. It is in the last, 3 years specifically. So I started the agency in 2018, had a partnership involved, bought them out. We're all female owned, and operated at this point. It's exclusively women working. And the empowerment of that, I made it a goal after the partnership dissolved to provide benefits. So I took, and made sure that we had, and, in the US, that's life. If you don't have benefits, if you don't have health insurance, that's a life-changing impact. And marketing, typically, if you're freelancing or you're doing design or you're doing videography or something where you don't have insurance, that can be a game changer in the US. And so I made sure of that. And as women, we underinvest at a significant rate to our men counterparts. So we do a match for a 401k. And it's something that I'm very proud of. I am team forward. In fact, our goal this year is to start profit sharing. Because at what point, look, at the end of the day, the money is for me, right? The business owner. That's the traditional model. I do not need more money. I want my people to be happy. I want them to be fulfilled. I want them to feel an ownership to Workhorse. And so what am I going to do? Scrooge McDuck, swim in gold bullion when my team is struggling to pay bills? Absolutely not. So, I love where we're at. I'm so proud of the team and the work that we're doing and the clients that we have. And some days it's overwhelming. Some days it's rough. Everybody has bad days. But man, I sit back at the end of it and I'm so proud of what we've done and accomplished. And I'm very lucky in this lifetime. So
I love your conviction and I love your passion. Like, yeah, I'm just sitting here and it's like this woman has it so right. Like she's doing like she is like for the people, for a team, for like I guess the greater good, like and it's so like genuinely it's quite inspiring. And I know that people who listen to this podcast are just going to be listening to you and going like, wow, like you can do it. You can like live the life, especially in an industry like marketing, right? Like you can be proud of the work that you do and hold your head up high and just know that you're doing the right thing. And
I will say it's been a challenge.
yeah,
It isn't a popular thing
for
to
sure.
have different appeals and different views from most agencies. And we've gotten beat up by competitor, agencies trying to undermine what we do because they can't be us. They'll never be us. They don't have the experience, they don't have the background, they don't have the passion, and they don't care. They're in it for the money. And it's, I'm like, come on, keep going. Try and take us out. It will never happen. I've fought a lot worse demons than other agencies. So it's fun. But, I think the key, and I think the thing when people ask me, like, how did you, push forward? I have no fear. And I think that's the key. At the end of the day in my life, I've made decisions that are questionable sometimes, good, bad, indifferent. But I always tried to make decisions where if it fails, I'm good. I'm good. I've owned several other businesses that, are kind of out of scope of marketing, but I knew if it failed, I was good. Um, Worst case, if something happened to Workhorse tomorrow and I had to leave and start over, uh, I'm cool working at like a Target at Kohl's. I'll go, take a job and hustle. Um, Whatever, but right now in this space, and I think that's the key too, is to be in the space, to enjoy where you are. And that's something I've really struggled with because I've always been like, keep going, more and more and more. Nope. This is the year I'm going to just enjoy the moment and bask in what we've created. And yeah, I mean, we did it. It's kind of a cool thing. So,
Amazing. I love that. I love the mentality. This is actually genuinely, I've really enjoyed talking to you. You've been one of my like favorite people because like just the
oh,
way that
thank
you're
you.
articulating your insights, it's just like, gosh, people need to listen to this and in hopes that they're inspired to try to have some of the same sort of characteristics or philosophies of like that, of having no fear. And you've just framed that really well. And I guess I have one more question for you before we finish off here today. And it's the question I always try to end off with is when you think about this life that you've lived and the work that you do and the how you're trying to be so present in it right now, what are the moments or experiences or memories that remind you and ground you that like this is why I do what I do. This is why I have these philosophies. This is why I continue to lead with candor and lead with honesty and lead with truth. Like what are the things that ground you that you always go back to on those challenging days when you'd be like, yeah, this is why I do it.
So many reasons. One, that like again, the team that I'm around right now are all just these incredible women, and they're so different from me. I didn't want to build a mirror of a team. I wanted to look out and see diversity and uniqueness. And, sometimes when you have different personalities, it can be a challenge, but I love the diversity that we have and the unique personalities right now. So that's something, that I look back on and I'm just really, really excited about. But I think the moment that gets me, the moment where I just sit back and I can't even believe we're here talking about it, is a quiet moment in when I'm traveling and I know that all the bills are paid and I have a beautiful husband and a home and a family. And I just think little Allie would be so blown away. Like it's more than we hoped for. And I think that's really, at the end of the day, the most you can hope for is to wow the kid who didn't think they could do any of it, you know, impress the 10-year-old you. That's it. That's the key to it all. Just, you know, and gratitude. I've really worked on my gratitude. I'm trying to shift out of this survival mode and be in, like I said, this is my year. I'm going to be in this space and be grateful for the good, the bad, the challenges, the struggles, and not try and fix everybody else's problems, but just relish in the success that we do have. And yeah, but little Allie, she's pretty impressed right now, and that feels really good.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Ali, and thank you so much for being on this podcast and sharing your story and your insights. I like now I feel inspired to like my wife's asleep right now, but when she wakes up, I'm just going to talk to her about marketing and this conversation that I had with you. Um,
I love it. Tell her anytime she's bored, she can call me. I will talk
uh,
about, and people who love me know this, I will talk about marketing anytime, anywhere. Inappropriate funeral, I'll still talk about marketing.
well, she works in the not-for-profit space and she's starting her own business now. So it's cool. It's fascinating just seeing her and her mind
Oh,
and how she's trying to not just like work for the not-for-profit, but also you know, try to and what you talk about storytelling, like her like what she's making and how she's framing it is all about the story behind everything. And it's beautiful to see, you know, like it's the love of my life, chasing her dreams, starting up a
ah,
business, but using this skill set that she has and all the lessons that she's learned from marketing to, you know, make it happen for herself. So,
and
yeah.
isn't that really the key? Is if you can use your gifts to make things better. What if we all did that? You know, I mean, you're doing it with the podcast, like you're inspiring other people. That's your gift. And God, the world would just be such a better place if that was the focus. So kudos to her. And genuinely, if I can, I mean, we know the nonprofit space inside and outside. So if she ever needs any advice, let me know. I especially loved supporting other women on this journey. That wasn't a thing when I was coming up. Women were very competitive in marketing. And so I will absolutely help any of the women I can to move forward in this space. So
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. I will let her
yeah.
know.
Yeah,
But Ali, I
absolutely.
really appreciate this time. Can't wait to release this episode. But again, thank you so much for joining me on the Justin Emmer podcast.
Ah, thank you.